this. All right, now I'm going to go back to my screen sharing. And we will begin. Are you there, Alma?
Yes, I am. Just on mute. Thank you.
Okay, and are you good to go now, Alma?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, great. So I want to thank everyone for taking part in this workshop, the financial guidance to help cope with COVID-19. For those who don't know, my name is Danny Perry, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement for ICS. With me, I have Alma Rojas, who will be presenting today. Alma is a financial counselor for New York Legal Assistance Group, also known as NYLAG. Before we start, a couple of household items. As I mentioned, we're kindly asking everyone to mute themselves so there's no background noise taking place during the presentation. After the presentation, we'll of course have Q&A, and anyone who has questions can unmute themselves. So to mute yourself, unmute yourself. As I mentioned, you put your cursor over your image, and then you'll see a mute or unmute link come up, and then you can just toggle back and forth. All right. Also, participants can be in either speaker or gallery view. We strongly encourage people to go into speaker view because that way you'll be able to clearly see the presentation when that comes up. Okay. I think that is about it. Just a couple of things before we jump in and I give this over to Alma. This workshop is being brought to you by ICS's Health Home Program in conjunction with New York Legal Assistance Group, NYLAG. The ICS Health Home Program is not a place or a residence. It's a program providing additional services above and beyond what individuals receive from their managed long-term care plan to support their health and well-being in the community. The Medicaid funded program is the first and only of its kind in New York State, specializing in serving people with physical disabilities. To learn more, call 646-653-6230 or email community engagement at icsny.org. You could also visit www.icsny.org. Okay, lastly, before I give this over to Alma, a quick disclaimer. Please note that this event will be recorded. By taking part, you are consenting that ICS or our partners may reuse and distribute the content. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna hand it over to Alma Rojas. I wanna thank her once again for being our presenter today and supporting our effort in getting this important information out. All right, Alma, you want to take it away?
Sure. Let me just pull up my screen. And okay, does everyone see the title screen, Financial Guidance Coping Through COVID-19?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. First, thank you, Danny, for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. And we really appreciate it. We know that it is a hard time for many individuals, and you might have a lot of, competing interests. So we do appreciate, again, for you taking the time to be here. As Danny mentioned, my name is Alma Rojas, and I am a financial counselor with New York Legal Assistance Group. NYLAG is a nonprofit that provides free civil legal services, financial counseling, and we also engage in policy advocacy to help people experiencing poverty. So we work across various issue areas and law practices, and because we understand that many of these areas are interconnected. And so some of the areas that we work with include consumer rights, education rights, government benefits, healthcare access, housing, immigration, veterans' rights, workers' rights, and there's so much more. So I work for the financial counseling unit, which means, we focus primarily on helping clients through financial crisis and coaching clients to long-term financial stability. Financial counselors can help individuals, identify and achieve financial goals, develop a spending plan or budget, work on their credit, learn about different saving vehicles, develop a debt action plan for consumer debt or overpayment debt with Social Security. And we can also answer some questions regarding taxes and public benefits. But a quick disclaimer, because we are a law firm, I just have to say this, that all the presentation and materials provided today are intended for educational purposes only. They're not intended as official legal or tax advice. But if you do need a lawyer, I definitely recommend that you reach out to NYLAG or to one of the many other nonprofit legal organizations in New York City. Also, please keep in mind that federal, state, and local programs are constantly updating their information and also their guidance regarding certain programs, especially during this time. So the information that I'm presenting on today may not be relevant next week. So always verify with the appropriate agency for any of the topics that I mentioned today, and I will provide links at the end of this presentation. So we do have a lot to cover today, but hopefully we'll be able to fit it all in, and especially because I want as much as possible to answer any questions that you may have. And so, but in general, I'll talk about budgeting and bill prioritization during times of crisis, go over New York City rent and utility guidelines and managing consumer debt, as well as touch base on Social Security services and the economic impact payment, which many of you might have questions on. And then as well, we'll talk about predatory services. And I'm sorry, is everyone on? Can we just mute a little bit because I'm getting some feedback noise? If it's possible, I would like to start by asking all of you what concerns or worries you have regarding managing your finances during this time. So either you can unmute yourself and share your experience during this time, your worries, your questions, or you can also type it in the chat box. And then I'm not seeing the chat box on my end, so if there are any questions in the chat box, would you mind just reading them out loud for me?
Yep, and yes, there's nothing being sent from the chat box. Someone mentioned that the individual who they thought was making background noise, so I muted them. But yeah, let's see if you want to just pose it again. Does everyone know how to use the chat box? Let me just go over that real quick. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, there'll be an icon that says chat, and you just click on that, and then you just type in any piece of information you want, and then I'll read that out to Alma.
I don't see a chat box. Can you hear me?
If you put your cursor, you got to bring your cursor down to the bottom of your screen. And when you do that, you should see a few icons pop up, including a chat box.
I see a couple icons. I don't see a chat box. Can I just ask a question? Okay.
Yeah, you can definitely just ask it, yeah.
Okay, my concern is about 401k, because everybody's like, don't touch it, whatever, but I've touched it and I paid the you know, you pay the amount first, the insurance, the taxes first, and then you pay the taxes again when you file tax. So my question's about the 401k. Like, if you have touched it, like, it is a bad thing, or is it like a really bad thing? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. I would say, so that question, I think I can probably answer perhaps I can answer it now, yes.
Okay.
So generally, we do not recommend touching your 401k
Okay.
until the very last, it's at last resort. However, if you do need to, of course, it's completely understandable. There are some programs where if you withdraw the money before you're allowed to, so in typical cases, it's before the age of 59 and a half. As you mentioned, you will have to pay not only taxes on it, but you will also have to pay a penalty on early withdrawal. And so some of these is usually higher. But there is some hardship provisions included in 401k plans where if you can demonstrate that you needed to withdraw the money due to pay for living expenses. So, for example, you had a very high medical bills or you had to pay off your mortgage because there was nothing left. There are some exemptions to that tax penalty. You still pay taxes, but there will be exemptions to the tax penalty. However, you will need to speak with a tax accountant. But if you schedule a financial counseling session, the counselors can help you through that process as well.
Great.
Alma, there's a question that came in via the chat, and I think you are going to touch on this in your presentation, so you can decide whether to answer it now. But the question is, how and when do we receive our stimulus check?
Yes, that it will be covered in the presentation, but that is a very great question. And if I don't cover it, definitely we'll revisit that. There is a Q&A after that section. Okay. But thank you for the question so far. I think I will move on with the presentation. I think one of the biggest stressful parts about this COVID-19 pandemic is the uncertainty, right? Uncertainty can be more stressful than knowing. Right now, we don't know how long this will last. We don't know if we have enough savings available. If you were working, that loss of income, you don't know when you will be able to return to work. So as financial counselors, we think that it's very important during this time to create a financial inventory so that you can know your entire financial picture. In other words, it's very important that you know what's coming in and what's going out. So, and for income, include public benefits in that and know what resources you have available. Cash at hand, money in the bank, savings, in the 401ks, IRAs, or S&Ts or full trust. Know how much you have in debt, and know what bills you have to pay. And all the bills, not just the monthly bills, but know the quarterly and annual bills. And don't forget to jot down any important dates for income streams, your financial obligations, and reporting requirements. And in the process of taking inventory, you should also take the time to organize and secure important documents. And we all know that good record keeping can help you maintain and access resources quicker. For example, if you need to apply for benefits, grants, or loans, you won't be delayed by having to look for the supporting documents. Good record keeping also will help you provide legal proof of ownership, as well as a history of financial activity for the worst case scenarios, for example, identity theft or probate situation. And once you complete your financial inventory, you will have the information needed to create a financial action plan, which of course is the foundation of, which means that you have a budget. If you don't already have a budget, you're gonna need to create one. If you already have a budget, you may need to revisit it to update it. In the best of times, budgets help you create a plan to fund financial goals or other major expenses, as well as help you create a plan to pay down debt. But in times of crisis and economic uncertainty, budgets are even more critical because there is a natural shift in how much money we have available. For some folks, this may mean, that there is a loss of income, which will make it harder to cover normal monthly expenses. For other individuals, it may, there may not be a loss of income, but there may be an increase in monthly expenses. For example, individuals now might have to shop around for the best, where before they could shop around for the best deals, now they may not be able to do so. or there might be extra delivery fees, medical bills, etc. And for other individuals, there actually might be an increase in funds, maybe because they are spending less, for example, on transportation, outside meal, or other discretionary expenses. And some just budgeting best practices is, prioritizing your spending. So identifying your basic expenses. So these are the, shelter, food expenses, medical expenses, and then come the quality of life expenses. So these are things that are essential to you personally and that improve your quality of life significantly, but that you can go without if you really, really and truly need it. And these expenses vary, person to person. So, don't let anyone judge. If you're spending on something, don't let anyone judge you and tell you to cut it, because that expense might actually be something that helps you in your day-to-day life. And the third category of expenses are the discretionary expenses. These are like the true luxury expenses. These are the expenses that are nice to have, but that you can drop easily without second thought. And after you prioritize your spending, you definitely need to know your bills and debts, and importantly, know where not to cut or delay payments. So sometimes, we'll go into this in the next slide, but some bills you definitely do not want to cut just because they have higher consequences. And I know that budgeting is stressful. A lot of our clients are reluctant to work on budgets. Many of us have our own budget, so we may think like, why do we need to revisit this at this time? But it is a form of self-care. Again, not knowing is worse than knowing, and you always need to adjust it. But if you do need help, but that's what financial counselors are there for. We can help you with all the little stuff, like help you identify red flags in your budget and help you create a plan. For prioritizing bills, first come rent and mortgages. There are options if you fall behind on rent, but the risk and consequences for not paying it is much greater than anything else. After that comes utilities, which usually maybe a little just below rent. There also have provisions available, and then government debt, child support, student loans, and tax debt. Government debts are a top priority because the government does not need to take you to court in order to garnish your wages or your resources or your tax refunds. In general, though, even though they have the highest consequences, there are a lot of options as soon as you contact the appropriate government agency. And I will talk a little bit more about the tax debt, but one thing to know right now during COVID-19, there are protections in place for student loans, for federal student loans. So payments are suspended until September, and there is no interest-free fees. As for tax debts, the IRS has also suspended payments unless you have an automatic debit. And the only problem area is the child support. So there are no protections right now if you have child support debt. The economic impact payment, the stimulus check, can be taken if you have child support debt in arrears. So it's important if you do have child support debt to contact the child support enforcement office. They have a customer service department that is very, very good. Or you can contact an organization called LIFT, Legal Information for Families, and they can provide you with legal advice. Now, the lowest priority of all the bills is the credit card payments, and I will talk about why that is in a few slides. So for rent payments, you may have heard that the rent has, that evictions have been temporarily suspended in New York City. That doesn't mean that rent payments are not due. So if you have the funds available, still pay your rent. Especially because if you don't pay for 1 month, yes, you may not be evicted, but 2 months later, you will owe 2 or 3 months rent. And it'll be much harder to pay that huge lump sum than paying monthly bills right now. However, if you cannot make the payment, you can call your landlord and explain the situation. Many landlords are offering hardship plans. It's rare, but some landlords have also suspended rent payments. Or you can apply for the one-shot deal with HRA. However, if you apply for a one-shot deal, just remember to wait until you really need it, because you want to make sure that the one-shot deal covers all the monthly rent in arrears and not just 1 month, because it may be harder to reapply for another month. And if you are living in a rent-stabilized apartment and you are not on a rent freeze program like SCREE or GREE, then definitely apply for those right now. The same goes for New York City utilities. Utility shutoffs have been suspended for now, but a lot of the Con Edison and National Grid have financial hardship programs, and the one-shot deal is also still available with HRA. There are a lot of nonprofits that are offering grants, but you will need to apply through HRA first. But in general, please remember that even in non-COVID-19 times, if you're seriously ill or injured, or you have medical devices that need electricity, then the utility companies cannot shut off services for non-payment. And here is just a slide with some of the programs that are available through Con Ed and National Grid. Con Ed is waiving late fees, and they have created some extra low-income discounts, and they always have the Energy Share program. National Grid also has the Neighborhood Heating Fund. I find that a lot of our clients are having an easier time negotiating with Con Ed right now, but the key phrase to use if you're having trouble making payments is using the term COVID-19. If you want to get in touch with HRA, you can always call their hotline. Many of the centers are closed right now for in-person services, but they are still working. And if you want an in-person appointment, you could definitely still request one, and they have to give it to you. But as much as possible, try to use the Access HRA app. And you can always revisit Access NYC to see if there are any other benefits that you're eligible for. And just to note that if you had any pending actions with HRA, for example, a Medicaid recertification, SNAP recertification, those deadlines have been extended. And again, HRA will not cut off those benefits. If you are receiving not the maximum of the SNAP benefit that you're entitled to, HRA recently came out with a policy that they would try to make the difference so that you could get the maximum benefit. So for consumer debt, a lot of folks want to focus on paying off consumer debt first, but because it can be the most stressful debt, because it is sometimes the biggest debt of a person's financial obligation. But as I said, it is the lowest priority. If you're unable to pay your active accounts, please think strategically. So that means look at all your credit accounts, consider which one you really and truly need to pay for your household expenses, and then try to keep that card at a 30% utilization rate and make at least a minimum payment. And then any other credit cards that you cannot pay, ask the credit card company to move the bill due date. That way you don't have to pay any interest fees or late fees. Or you can also inquire about hardship programs. And again, if you inquire about the hardship program, make sure that you mention COVID-19 because companies have separate hardship programs, but these are a little bit more strict. And for example, the company may decide that if you don't complete the program, they'll just terminate your credit card. But the COVID-19 hardship programs are a little bit more flexible. But before signing anything, always make sure you understand the terms and agreements. Now, some folks had a hearing date scheduled for a judgment. And so if that's the case, do not assume that your hearing was postponed, because even though the courts are closed for a lot of services, hearing dates for the most part still continue. So you need to call your court clerk office to confirm your appointment. If you still have a hearing date and you cannot go because it is unsafe for you to go outside the home, then you can request an adjournment. And this just basically means that your hearing date will be rescheduled. And the biggest thing to remember about consumer debt is that under federal and New York State law, certain types of income are exempt from debt collection. So if you're receiving public benefits, Social Security benefits, whether that's SSD or SSI, unemployment insurance, veteran benefits, or workers' comp, credit companies and other debt collectors cannot legally garnish that debt. So definitely make sure if you have those types of benefits that you know your rights. And there's a link on the slide to the New Economy Project, which goes more into detail. If you do decide to settle with a company during this time because you have a little bit of extra funds, you could do that. Again, I recommend that you use those funds for savings because it's not clear how long this crisis is going to continue. But if you do want to pay off your credit card, just make sure that you know that you validate the debt before you do so. And by that, I mean make sure that the debt with the collection agency is the right one, because debts jump around so much that if you pay one collection agency, they might not be the rightful owners of the debt, so now you're out of funds and you also still owe that debt. And we've also been hearing complaints from clients that creditors are being a little bit more aggressive, trying to collect delinquent debt. So they're calling at odd hours, or they're pressuring people to use a stimulus payment to pay off a collection debt. And that's not okay, and you do have rights. So if you want to file a complaint with the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, please do so. If you are being harassed by a creditor, please contact the financial counselor or a consumer protection unit with NYLAG or any of the nonprofit law firms to find out more about your options. So just want to take a quick pause here to see if anyone has any questions.
There was a question, but I think this one is going to be discussed in the next section. It comes from an individual who asked, did not file 2018 and 2019. I guess they're talking about their taxes, received both SSI and SS, received checks on bank account. Will I receive the stimulus check in bank account? So as I mentioned, I think you're going to be talking about this later on, right?
Yep, I'm going to talk about it probably in about 5 to 10 minutes, so I can cover that then.
Great. Does anyone have, if you want to ask a question now, you can either do it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Right now, everyone should be on mute. Okay.
Hello, Danny.
Yes.
This is Esteban. I would like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
The question is, I work and I also get the Social Security benefits, and I have to report my income during this time. How do we do that? Do you know?
Yep. So if you are receiving, yeah, that's a great question. So if you are receiving SSI, continue to report all your income, because SSI is a needs-based benefit. So they always take a look at your earned and unearned income. And if you're receiving unemployment, that counts as unearned income. So you do need to report it. There is a provision in the Social Security Procedure Manual that allows for extenuating circumstances in delayed reporting. But if you receive SSI, there is a hotline number that you can call to report wages. You can call your local Social Security office, or you can mail a letter to your local office telling them that you have that you are reporting wages.
Okay.
If you have SSD, there is more leeway.
Social Security survivors benefits.
Yeah, so it should be okay, because with SSD, it's more about the earned income. But yeah, for more information, you should contact your local office.
Because
But I will talk about that.
I've been mailing them, right? But they gave me these envelopes to mail them in, but I've been trying to call the Social Security and I can't get a hold of them or nothing like that. And I don't want to get penalized for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you calling it the national office or your local office?
Calling the 1-800 Social Security. I guess that's the national.
Yeah. Okay. So you should
My
definitely
local
try to
office,
call
they're
your.
not picking up.
Yeah. Okay. So what I recommend is every time you make a call, screenshot on your phone the time that you made that call, because that will be your proof that you did everything possible to report your wages. If you have SSD, you can also report your wages through your online account with Social Security. If you don't have an online account with Social Security, I highly recommend creating one. And actually, that is a good segue into my next portion of the presentation. So let me jump right into that. And if this doesn't clarify your question, feel free to ask it again, and we'll circle back to it. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So yes, there have been a few changes to Social Security, which again makes it difficult with reporting income and just in general touching base with Social Security. Right now, we know that Social Security has suspended the following workloads: medical continuing disability reviews, non-disability hearings, individual rep payee accountings, and third-party requests for information. For example, if you had a social worker or a lawyer request information from Social Security, they won't get that information right now. Or if you yourself filed a FOIA request, Social Security is not going to comply with that right now. They will when the crisis is over, but they've just reduced their services for now. And wherever possible, Social Security is suspending the processing of and collection of overpayments. So this means new overpayments. If it's already in the system, Social Security will still send out notices. And if you already have a recoupment in place, that will still continue. Online services have not changed for Social Security, so you can still file a claim. You can file appeals, and you can review your information, and you can update personal information. So that includes change of address, direct deposit information, and also the reporting of income for SSD beneficiaries. And if you want to file taxes and you need your 1099 SSA form, you can also print it out from your My SSA account. The national number is only scheduling phone appointments right now to apply for benefits. They will handle requests for non-receipt of benefits, the reinstatement of benefits, and they will also update your personal information. But yes, the wait times, in good times, the wait times are really long. Right now, the wait times are 90 minutes or longer for non-automated telephone services. And one thing to note is that your local office will always have more information than the national office for your particular case. So as much as possible, contact your local office. And yes, local offices are close to the public, but they are still providing services. It's just reduced, and you can still contact them by phone, fax, or mail. Their priority right now is handling reports of non-receipt of benefits, reinstating benefits after suspension, and accepting survivor benefits and disability applications for the most severe cases. If you don't know your local office, you can always just find it through the Social Security office locator. Just search by zip code and select I need other services. Usually, they would only record the national number, but right now, they are publishing their local office number online, so you can search for that. If you have an SSA notice, though, like an award letter or something that they recently sent, the letter usually has your local office number on it as well. For most up-to-date information about what services Social Security is doing or not doing, questions about the economic impact payment as it relates to Social Security, unemployment benefits, stuff like that. Social Security has created a website just for COVID-19 issues, and you should always look at this website. Even if, again, because the things that I mentioned today might be different on Monday. And the great thing about this website is that you could actually subscribe to the page, and so you can get alerts anytime new information is created by either the IRS or Social Security. Okay, so the CARES Act. Before I go into the economic impact payment, I do want to summarize the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. This was the $2 trillion aid package that was passed by Congress, and that was signed by law. Was signed into law on March 27th. You'll see this called by different names in the media: the CARES Act, the Stimulus Act, etc. It provides financial aid to families, businesses, and states impacted by COVID-19. And the financial aid comes in a variety of forms. But for most individuals, the biggest impact is in the expansion of the unemployment benefit insurance program, the stop in student loan payments, and of course, the economic impact payment. If you want to know more about the CARES Act, you can visit the Treasury Department's website, and I provided the link on the slide for more information. So the stimulus payment, what is it? So it is an advance 2020 credit. It's a payment or a rebate that is going to be either direct deposited or mailed by check to eligible households. And the maximum payment is $1,200 per adult non-dependent and $500 per dependent child under the age of 17. Singles who earn below $75,000, head of households who earn below $112,000 and $500, and married filing jointly couples who earn below $150,000 in either 2018 or 2019 will receive the full payment. Households that earn above these income limits or thresholds will get a reduced payment, and it eventually phases out for the most highest earners. The payment is not taxable, so you will receive the full check in its entirety, and you will not have to pay it back. In addition to meeting the adjusted gross income requirement, individuals must meet the following to receive the payment. They must have a valid Social Security number, and they cannot be claimed as a dependent on another person's income taxes. These requirements unfortunately mean that several groups are left out from receiving the payment, and this includes ITIN filers, including mixed status households where any member, adult or child, has an ITIN on a tax form. There is an exception to this rule, and that is for certain military family members. And again, anyone who was or can be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return and is over the age of 17 is not eligible for this credit. So that includes college students, some seniors, and some individuals with disabilities. Unfortunately, these individuals cannot claim the $1,200 credit for themselves, and tax filers who claim those individuals as dependents cannot claim the $500 child dependent credit on their behalf either. There is not much of impact when it comes to the payment on benefits. Social Security, anyone that's receiving Social Security retirement, Social Security disability, childhood disability benefits, there will be no impact at all on resources or income. If you're receiving SSI or another mean-tested benefit like SNAP, cash assistance, or a rent subsidy, it's not going to count as income, and it's not going to count as a resource for 12 months upon the receipt of benefit. As far as garnishment, the payment is protected from federal student loan debt and tax debt offset. So that means if you owe back taxes, or if if your student loan is currently in default status, you do not need to worry about the government taking this check to pay off those debts. If you have a private debt with either a bank or a credit card company, federally, the stimulus payment is not protected. But in New York State, the New York State Attorney General enacted a new measure to protect the payments from garnishment due to unpaid debt. And that was recently signed earlier this week. So it is unclear if your check was already offset. It's unclear what resources you currently have, but I'm sure we're going to get more guidance on that in the following weeks. And remember, if you have child support debt, this economic impact payment can be garnished. And there's no protection either on the federal level or the state level. And the following individuals are going to receive automatic payments: anyone who filed taxes in 2018 or 2019, and any individuals who are not required to file taxes and who receive Social Security benefits, railroad retirement benefits, SSI, or VA benefits. And the payments are either going to be direct deposited into a bank account or they'll be sent via check in the mail. So if you filed in 2018 or 2019, but the IRS does not have your direct deposit information, or you want to update your direct deposit information or your mailing address, you need to go to the IRS portal and get my payment. If you have not filed 2018 or 2019 taxes and you are required to file, you must file taxes to claim the payment. You cannot use the IRS non-filer portal. If you do use the non-filer portal, there will be a lot of delays and you might not get your payment anytime soon. If you receive Social Security retirement, survivor benefits, SSDI, and you have an eligible dependent child or children under the age of 17, and you have not filed your taxes in 2018 or 2019, there was a requirement that you use a non-filer form by April 22nd to receive the additional 500 credit per child. And so unfortunately, if you miss the deadline, you're not going to have to wait until you file your 2020 taxes in 2021 to claim the additional economic impact payment for the dependents. You'll still get your $1,200 check for yourself, but if you have dependents, you're going to have to wait until 2021 to get that extra 500. If you receive SSI or VA benefits and you have a child under the age of 17 and you have not filed your taxes, you need to fill out that non-filer form before the end of April. We still don't know the exact deadline. That's why I recommend subscribing to the Social Security COVID-19 webpage to receive alerts so that you can know that deadline. But if you want to get that 500 credit for your child, you need to fill this out as soon as possible, because it'll be the same as if you received SSD and had a child. You're going to have to wait to file your taxes in 2021 to claim the credit. If you have not filed taxes and you do not receive SSA or VA benefits, for example, you receive public assistance and you're not required to file a return, you can still file the IRS non-filer payment portal. And this is necessary because without this information, the IRS won't know to send you a check. But you can also file your 2019 taxes. And this might actually be recommended for individuals who worked a little bit because you might get extra credits like the earned income tax credit or the school tax credit. If you are a new beneficiary of either Social Security benefits or SSI benefits and you did not file in 2018 or 2019, you need to use the IRS non-filer form because everything is based on 2018 and 2019. So the IRS won't be able to contact Social Security and get your direct deposit information. And some important websites from the IRS. The first will be the two portal accounts. And so it's the non-filer portal is on the left-hand side, and the Get My Payment information is on the right-hand side. And so you can use the Get My Payment information if you're a tax filer to track where your payment is. However, that website has been crashing lately just because there's so many individuals trying to get a status on their check. So, but if you need more information, the best place to go is the Economic Impact Payment Information Center from the IRS, because it's really comprehensive and goes into the different scenarios of when you're eligible, when you're not eligible, when you'll receive your check, et cetera. Any questions on the economic impact payment before I launch into the scams?
Once again, you can type into the chat room by bringing your cursor all the way down to the bottom, and then you'll see the chat icon, or you can unmute yourself now and ask the question if you would like to. Nothing in the chat. Any questions, voice questions, audio questions? Okay, I think we're good, Alma.
Okay, so one question that did pop up earlier in the Q&A was, when will you receive the payment? So most individuals, well, not most, some individuals have received the payment already. If you're on SSD, you might have received it on the normal date of when you received your regular SSDI payment or Social Security retirement payment. You would have received a separate check the same day. So check your bank account. If you have not received it, it's just you're just on a line. There's no formula from the IRS on who receives the checks first, whether it's 2018 filers or 2019 filers or non-filers. We're all in the same mix. But SSDI benefits should be receiving their checks within the next few weeks. That's why there was that deadline for April 22nd to file the dependent credit. SSI beneficiaries should be getting their mails starting in May. Okay, so the last portion of the presentation is how to avoid scams and predatory services. So it's important to remember that the IRS and Social Security will not call you, they will not email you, they will not text you, and they will not contact you via social media to verify personal information or bank information. And they're not going to help you, with speeding up the payments. They will also never ask you to make payments via Venmo, Cash App, Bitcoin, any Apple Store or iTunes gift cards, or prepaid cards. So if you do get requests like that, automatically it's a red flag, and those are scammers. If you are receiving unemployment or you file for unemployment and you were told to expect a call within 72 hours to speak with an agent, just watch out for scammers that are calling after normal hours. For example, they're calling at 10 o'clock at night, and they're asking the same questions that the Department of New York of the Labor would ask. For example, they'll ask you your mother's maiden name. They'll ask you to verify bank information, the last numbers of your social. So if they're calling outside the normal hours of 9 to 5, or the Department of Labor is calling on Saturdays, always verify that you are speaking with an agent. If they do not identify themselves as an agent, just hang up. Most importantly, do not sign over the check to anyone, like, friend or relative or an acquaintance, or, someone just come out of the blue and said, just sign over the check to me, and I'll help you process it, or I'll help you hide it from Social Security or SSI. Again, your benefit is protected. It won't count as income or resource payments, so do not sign over that check. And be cautious of people who are requesting your Medicaid or Medicare numbers, or people who are claiming to be utility workers or customer service representatives, or people who are coming in and saying that they're offering free coronavirus tests or supplies. And watch out for any price gouging schemes and charity or donation scams. There's a lot of GoFundMe scams out there because there's a lot of people that need help. And GoFundMe, it is a legitimate company, but you want to make sure you always do your research before you help someone out. And be careful of websites or products that ask you to enter personal information in order to assist you with the payment. Some of these are products that are legitimate, but they will charge you to access information, or they will push you towards to pay tax filing products. Some important websites for all of you to know is the IRS, the Social Security, New York City. If you need resources, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities has compiled a pretty good resource page. And if you want to know more about the economic impact payment in the different scenarios, New York City's Department of Consumer Affairs has also created a document that goes into everything. And it will tell you whether you need to use the non-filer portal or if you need to file taxes. If you do want to file taxes, or if you need to file taxes, I recommend that you use a free tax software. You can find these through New York State or through the IRS file options. So for example, TurboTax has a free filing option, but only use the link through the IRS because the other one may end up charging you fees. Even if they're advertised as free, you may end up filing for free with the federal, but end up paying for filing with the state. If you would prefer someone else to do your taxes, New York City is launching a virtual tax program. It's coming in the next few weeks, and you will be able to access it through the New York City Free Tax Prep program, and they have a webpage. That's the first link on the slide. If you have questions relating to issues that are specific to COVID-19, for example, it could be debt collection, it could be more questions about the pandemic unemployment insurance program. If your landlord is trying to evict you, which they shouldn't be, if you have questions about public benefits or healthcare benefits, you can call NYLAG's resource hotline at 929-356-9682. Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and you'll get advice. If it's an issue that's not pertaining to COVID-19, but that you still need help with, you can call the general hotline at 212-613-5000. And NYLAG also has a coronavirus resource page, so it does go into a lot of details. We do have extra webinars, including student loan payments, unemployment benefits, and eviction, healthcare access, and much more. If you're interested in scheduling a financial counseling appointment, you can do so through our website at nylag.org/gethelp. And that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Yes, I have one question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. My name is Kelly Irish. I came in late, so I missed. If you're on SSDI, your payment should be coming in May
If you're on SSDI, the checks have already started to go out. So some individuals have already received their payment on the same date as their normal benefit payment.
Mm-hmm.
But you should receive it by the end of May, as long as the IRS and Social Security has your information.
Right.
So for example, if you use Direct Express, your check will be deposited into your Direct Express card. If you get the check mailed, that's where it might be a delay, because those are not going to be rolled out until much later. But by the end of the year, you will definitely get it.
Right, I have direct deposit.
Yes, so you should be receiving it in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, if something is wrong, I should receive a letter saying that this is why I didn't get it?
So if you don't receive your check, let's say, I know it's a long time to wait, but let's say by June, then you should definitely contact NYLAG, or because, again, it shouldn't be garnished for any reason. It should not, so you should get your full payment.
All
unless
right,
you
then.
have child support in
No, I don't.
arrears.
No. So are we getting the full amount, or we only getting half? Because I was hearing that we're only going to get half.
No, you're going to receive the full 1,200
Okay.
for yourself. If you are married and you file
No.
taxes together, then you're going to receive 2 separate checks. But if it's just you, then yeah,
Right. Okay.
$1,200.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Nigel, you had a question, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and ask it?
It was answered already privately. Or, all right, yeah, for everybody. I just wanted to, where is it? Hold on one second.
Oh, wait, I think I see it. I figured out the chat option. Was that what was the deadline for April 22nd?
Yeah.
What credit was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the $500 child dependent credit. So if you have children and
No.
they're under the age of 17, then you have to fill out the portal to get the extra 500.
Oh,
If you missed the deadline, then you need to wait until you file taxes next year.
okay. So I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Yolanda has a question here in the chat. It says, and maybe she can clarify. It says, will we receive the information on screen or PDF file by email?
So the presentation was forwarded to Danny, so he can distribute it by email.
Yep. And if you want, everyone, I know you RSVP to Christy, right? So we can, you can either shoot her an email and we can send it out, or we might just send it out all in one blast. And just so you know, like I said, this is being recorded too. So we will be able to, we're going to be sending this out via social media to other people who weren't able to access it. So we'll be able to, you'll be able to view this again, the presentation if you want, but also you can access the actual presentation as well. I see a question here. It says those receiving SSD/retirement via direct deposit should be receiving their payments by direct deposit, hopefully in May. That's it. Okay, that's your update, right, Alma?
So that wasn't from me, but yes, that's true. They will be receiving their, so SSD beneficiaries will get their checks before SSI beneficiaries. And the deadline, the 4/22 deadline, was again for SSDI recipients with children. If you have SSI and you have children, you have until the end of May, but the exact deadline is still yet to be determined by the IRS. So if you have SSI and you have children, or you know someone who has SSI and has children, tell them to file that non-file portal as soon as possible. So another question, if your claim is a dependent and you get SSI via direct deposit. So if you're claimed as a dependent on someone's taxes, you will not get the $1,200 and you're not eligible for the $500. So this is the economic impact payment, is a tax credit, which is why a lot of it depends on how you filed in 2018 or 2019. So if someone claimed you as a dependent because they've supported you for more than 50% financially, then unfortunately you won't get that credit.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, there's another question. I just got an email from someone. who's asking, just give me 1 second. Can we get a list of sites that they can go on to get further information?
Yes, so on the slide with NYLAG, our coronavirus hotline, that should have a list of links to other agencies. If you, a few other agencies I recommend reaching out to are the other nonprofit legal organizations like Legal Aid for New York, Legal Services NYC, Mobilization for Justice, because they have also compiled really great resources. Legal Services NYC has a social worker department, and they have created a great resource guide that includes options for anyone that's facing food insecurity. Or they also have a list of individuals for financial assistance for individuals who are undocumented and would not qualify for any financial assistance right now through the CARES Act.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I think this was very useful information, Alma, and the fact that we were able to record it, and also having the PDF with the different slides, I think will also be useful for our members, and also sharing that out more broadly. So greatly appreciate your help and sharing your knowledge with our membership and those beyond. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Alma.
No, thank you all for having me and for asking really great questions. I think also just want to throw out there that often the community sometimes is more aware of financial resources than we actually think, right? So reach out to each other. You're a great support network, and definitely stay safe, you know, especially during this time. And if you have any questions pertaining to your individual circumstances, please feel free to schedule an appointment with a financial counselor.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Before we go, just a couple of things. We're going to have a couple of upcoming events, or we have a couple of upcoming events, so online workshops scheduled, including on May 5th on voter engagement, which is going to be very important in light of COVID-19 and opportunities for absentee ballot. So make sure you join us. There'll be a e-invite going out soon in regard to that. And then on May 13th, we're going to do a workshop on Know Your Rights. And I think that will also be very useful. And so there will also be an e-invite going out on that as well. Okay. So with that, once again, thanks so much, Alma. We appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for participating. And we look forward to seeing you on the upcoming workshops.
Thank you to you, Danny.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
You too.
You too, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great day. Be safe.
You too. Happy Friday, everyone.